Today I am recommending a game and not a video. I am recommending that you play Guild Wars 2. Guild Wars 2 is so good, and I've been playing it so much since November. And I'm gonna talk about what I like about it and how it's kind of unique, especially in the MMO genre. Uh, Guild Wars 2 is an MMO. A lot of people dispute this fact, but I'm going to talk about why, and I'm going to talk about why the fact that it's disputed is actually in Guild Wars 2's favor. So, first of all, if you want to pay, you can, but if you don't want to pay, Guild Wars 2, you can play it for free. I think the core game basically is free, so all that means is like whatever released when it released, the whole maps that are not in the extensions are accessible for free. You can just download the game and play it. So first of all, if you're not sure if you like it, you can just download the game and play it. There's going to be links in the description for that. But if you decide to pay, and that's one of the first reasons why I like it, is because there's no subscriptions. And you might think, well, why is that important? I don't want to pay a subscription for a game because I am very susceptible to FOMO, fear of missing out. And if I pay a subscription, I feel like I have to play the game. I have to optimize the fact that I paid for it, and so I have to play it as much as I can. And it stresses me out, and I can't enjoy the game that I'm playing. So subscriptions are out of the question. And when it comes to MMOs, since you have to pay server costs, subscriptions are very popular. But Guild Wars 2 is not subscription based. And on top of this, it's very cheap. I actually picked up two of the expansions. So what happened is on Steam, there's two expansions, Path of Fire and Heart of Thorns, and they were €7, both of them, which is like in dollars, it's like $7. And I basically bought both expansions for very cheap, and I had then the core game and two expansions for €7, and I just have them. I don't have to pay a subscription. I just have them. And why these expansions were great is my next point. How progression happens in Guild Wars 2. So the Heart of Thorns expansion provides gliding, and the Path of Fire expansion provides a lot of mounts. And how it works is really impressive. Basically, in Guild Wars 2, your progress when it comes to mounts, when it comes to your progressions, when it comes to even the money, all the currency you have in your account, all of that is in one, it's account based. So what that means is if I have like a number of gold on one character, if I create another character, I have the exact same amount of gold. If I have a mount unlocked on one character, if I create another character, I can access that mount basically immediately. And what that means is that you do not have to worry about creating the perfect character and making sure that you love the class. Otherwise, oh no, I'm gonna have to do all a bunch of bullshit again for another character. I'm gonna have to unlock a bunch of things if I don't like the character I'm playing. No, in Guild Wars 2, you can just create a character and you can know that whatever you unlock on that character is gonna be kept on another character. So the only thing you'd have to do is just level the character, but all the mounts you unlocked and all the things like this are basically not transferable but accessible across characters. And it's a form of horizontal progression that I absolutely love because it erases a lot of FOMO. Because I don't want to talk too much about that, but you can do, like, you have to do certain story episodes, let's say, to unlock certain mounts. And even that just kind of stresses me out because I'm like, oh, then I want to finish the story and I'm not focused on the story because what I really want is the mount and I don't care about the story. But with this kind of progression, I know that I can just play the story, but then I can play it again with another character and it won't matter as much because I'll have unlocked the mount anyways. So that's really, really, really cool. And another thing is you cannot miss anything in the game, in the sense that all the maps are accessible at all times. So what that means is, if you play World of Warcraft, you have the starting areas. You have like the level 10 areas, the level 20 areas, the level 30 areas. And one thing that, again, I'm very susceptible to fear of missing out. I'm gonna put a card for one of my videos where I talk about it in the in this video. But I don't like the fact that I can grow out of an area. So if I play an MMO and I level up and I realize, oh shoot, I'm way over leveled now and I can't complete another area, that sucks, because I feel like I kind of missed out on something. The way that Guild Wars 2 works is that you have level 15 to 25 areas, 30 to 45 areas. But then if you're a level above that, if you're like level 80, which is max level, and you come back to a level 25 areas, which you will do a lot, your level gets brought down and you actually get experience, because again, some things that you unlock once you're max level, you unlock certain things, like you can get better mounts and things like this, and that unlocks across characters. But the way that you unlock that is by completing mission in like lower level areas, for example. And so when you go back to an area that's like a lower level, you get brought down and you can get experience for whatever you do in those areas, which is really cool, because sometimes you'll have world bosses, and world bosses are in lower level areas, and so you can know that you can just come back to these areas even if you're higher level, and you'll be able to get gear and get stuff. And that aspect of it, the whole game being experienceable at whatever point you are with your character, is really cool. Of course, if you're level like 20, you can't go to a level 80 area, or like you can, but you'll get slaughtered. But if you're higher level, it's very beneficial. Another thing is also just how friendly the community is. It's really insane. The only community that I've seen that is as friendly is the Deep Rock Galactic community, where people are just friendly to you. On Guild Wars 2, if you have a question, you can just ask. Often, I talked about world bosses. Oftentimes, when there's a world boss in a lower level area, there will be people who will warn people, new players in the area. They'll say like, "Hey, come here, and you'll see a world boss. If you have any questions, you can ask us." Things like this. And generally, when I've been looking for guilds, oh, because that's one thing as well. Like if you're in a guild, all your characters are going to be in that guild. Like it's your account that's in this guild, if that makes sense. But yeah, in guilds, like people are so friendly and helpful that it's really impressive, and it's really welcoming. It makes you want to play more. You can do whatever you want in Guild Wars 2. If you want to do PvP, you can have a level like 5 character, but when you play PvP, it just puts you at max level. So the way that PvP works is you'll have to equip certain items that don't cost anything, and everyone has access to them. But basically, like you can look up a build guide online and just copy it. But you just use the armor you have. You just buy the basic weapons that you need if you don't have them, and then and then it just treats your character as being max level even if you're not. So if you want to play PvP, you don't have to spend dozens of hours leveling your character. You can just jump in that PvP as soon as you can. And another thing that's extremely important that I didn't talk about is there's no quests. So in World of Warcraft, you walk to a character and you talk to them. They have a bunch of stuff, a bunch of text that you don't read because you don't give a shit, and then you do a quest and you kill like 5 monsters or 15 or 50, and then you go back to that character and they give you a reward. I never really liked that type of quest giving. I never really liked that type of thing. And one thing that I liked from a game that I played before, which is Rift, is every time you went to a new area, there would be like these dynamic quests that would pop up. And it was always the same thing, like kill 10 enemies from that area, you know? Not that interesting. But the thing I liked about it is it was like a dynamic quest. It was like something to do where you can just get it instantly and turn it in instantly. Um, Guild Wars 2 has that, but like infinitely more interesting. So in the core game, what would happen is you have these hearts in certain areas. And they're basically quests, but it's you walk into an area and you have like, oh, you need like, oh, the people here are trying to harvest grain, but monsters keep attacking them. So oftentimes you can like help them get the grain. You can like offload whatever they have. You can like give water to the people harvesting the grain because they're thirsty, or food because they're hungry, and you can kill like the enemies that are bothering them. And all of these actions will contribute to like to the heart being filled slowly, and when it's filled, it gives you a reward. I hope that makes sense, but that's basically the basic quest system. And the other thing that's amazing is dynamic events. Dynamic events, I love the concept. I played, again, Rift, which is another MMO that's older than Guild Wars 2, and that didn't age well. But one thing I loved in Rift is, like the name suggests, you had rifts that would open everywhere in the world, and so you would like be doing a quest, and maybe you needed to turn in the quest, but the quest giver was dead, and a rift had opened with monsters. And rifts, they didn't move around, so it's there's like set areas in the world where a rift can open, but it would be really cool, and you could always find rifts to close, and by closing them means killing the monsters that were brought by the rift. So you kill the monsters, and then there's a boss, and then the rift disappears. And sometimes there'd be a big event where a lot of rifts of one type would open up, and then a world boss would spawn in an area. It was really cool. But you'd get the gist of it. Honestly, there wasn't a lot of variety apart from the variety of rifts, like air rifts, fire rifts. You get the idea. Guild Wars 2 has so many events that, like, when I play, you can just kind of go in the world and go from event to event, and you'll never be bored. You have escort events, so you'd be walking somewhere and then you see a little shield on the map, and it's like, oh, there's like a caravan that's trying to get to point A to point B, but monsters keep attacking. And so you have to go there and help the caravan and defeat the monsters, and then it gives you the reward. You don't have to talk to anyone. You see you see like the event, you go to it, and once it's done, it just gives you the reward instantly and the experience. It's great. You have and you have a lot of times you have events that kind of chain. So if you have a defense event that leads to an area, then at the area you might have like monsters that attack it afterwards, and then once you defeat the monsters, you get the reward for the event. But then you have like a boss that would spawn in, and you'd get the reward for that. And on top of this, a lot of times boss in events like this are champion type bosses, and champions is like the highest level of how difficult a mob is. And oftentimes you by yourself, you can't kill it, so you'd have to type in the map chat, like, if no one shows up, like, hey, can I get help near this point with this champion mob. But a lot of times, because of how the servers work, which I'm going to talk about, you basically will always have someone that will come help you. Either you see an event and you go there and there's already people on that event, or you do an event and you're by yourself, but then there's people that come, because the game encourages you to go do stuff, to go do events that pop up everywhere, and it's very social. And the reason at the beginning that I said that it's an MMO, but a lot of people say it's not a real MMO, is because of how the servers work. So basically, in MMOs, one thing that again stresses me out is choosing a server, because if you choose a bad server, where there's not enough people, or not enough people that does dungeons or things like this, you're shit out of luck, because you're not gonna have enough people to play with, basically. And the way that Guild Wars 2 works is you cannot pick a bad server, because that's not really how the game works. Basically, you have maps in Guild Wars 2. You have servers, and you choose a server, but that's only important for one of the game modes, which is World versus World, which is like a 3v3, like a which is basically a game mode that pits 3 servers against each other, and each server has to compete in a map for areas, and like you represent your server, and you have to go capture areas that other servers captured, if that makes sense. And the server basically matters only for this game mode. Otherwise, you have different maps in the game, and all the maps are instanced. So basically, let's say I'm in the starting area for one of the races, which is Solvari, which is like 3 people. You're like a plant. Visually, I really like this race. Let's say that you go in the level 1 to 25 area for this race, which is the starting area. When you teleport to it, or when you go to it, it will put you in whatever version of that map that's most popular. And it populates the map with players from an entire continent. So there's multiple servers in Europe, but if you play in a European server, you'll be put in this map with other people from other European servers. So I don't know if that makes sense, but basically, like, think of the map as like a recipient where whatever server you're from, if you're in your European server, you might be put with other people that aren't in your servers, but that are playing from Europe. Does that make sense? So basically, if you can never be like by yourself in a map, because as long as there are people in a European server playing in the map you're playing in whatever like map you're playing in, then there'll be people. And if by the chance that, like, imagine like you're in an instance of the map you're playing in, like there's no more people, it will tell you, like there's a pop-up that will appear, and it's like, oh, you're playing by yourself, like no one's in this version of the map. Do you want to be migrated to a more populated version of the map? And if you click yes, you get a buff, and you'll be playing in a version of the map where there's more people. So I hope that makes sense, but that's like incredible, because it basically ensures that whatever happens, you'll always be playing with people. Even if there's like literally no one in your server, it does not matter, because the maps are not server based but continent based, and they're all instances. And so whenever you connect, it will put you in a version of the map where there's the most people, until that version is saturated, and it will move people who want to connect to this particular map to another version. I hope I'm not doing a great job of explaining it, but I hope it makes sense. But last point, I want to say that there's also a great variety in the game, and the main point is you can do whatever you want. It's really incredible. There's a story, you don't need to play it. That's a lie. You do need to play it to unlock certain things. Sometimes you will need to play the story to be able to unlock certain mounts and things like this, but it's really not that bad. And if you like exploration, you can just explore and level up this way. If you like the story, you can do the story and level up this way. If you like PvP, as I said, it puts you at the highest level, but then you will get things called tomes of whatever, that where when you double click them, you will gain a level in the PvE map. So basically, if you play PvP, you can still level up. If you play World versus World, which is like the conquest type thing, like if you play ESO, it's like you can capture castles with your server and things like this. It's very cool. You also get things that let you level up. There's fractals, which World of Warcraft actually kind of copied with their Mystic Dungeons, I think it is, something like that. They're very like kind of small dungeons, and you can do fractals like pretty quickly. There's also dungeons in the game, but actually, ironically, not that many people play them, but I'm still able to play them with people. there's just a lot of things that you can do. There's also no gear treadmill, so what that means is like you can very easily get very good gear and you won't have to worry about it. It's basically once you hit level 80, you can get exotic gear, and then there's 2 levels of gear above that, but they're not that good. Like basically, there's ascended gear and then legendary gear, and ascended gear is better than exotic gear, but not by that much. So it's only if you do fractals, like I talked about, like higher level fractals require ascended gear because of a certain resistance thing, and then legendary gear you have to work towards, and it's a very like hardcore kind of thing. You will need to play for months before you get like your first legendary gear. You will need to grind it out, but once you get it, you can change its stats however you want, and you can put it on any character. So like if you unlock like a head legendary gear, like a fucking hat or something, you will be able to put it on any of the characters that you want, and you will be able to change its stats anytime that you want. So again, quality of life stuff that is really, really, really good and make it like a really fun MMO to play. There's a lot of things I didn't talk about. There's a shop, but it's one of the best shops that I've seen in MMOs, and you can pretty easily buy the currency, which is gems, with gold. So there's that. Oh, and yeah, this video is really not well edited, not well. Like, I didn't write anything because holy shit, even just like the gameplay, I can't believe I'm saying it 21. I'm saying that 21 minutes in, but the gameplay is great. Like, the combat is so good. You can do tab targeting. So basically, tab targeting is how, when you click on an enemy and you click like 1, 2, 3 to use skills. But this game has something called like it's like a type of combat like camera targeting where you can just aim like an FPS. Like you can like I have it bound to a key where if I press a key, I go from tap targeting to being able to aim and shoot my skills wherever I want, and it's so good because you can basically play it like how you would play a Dark Souls game, for example. And a lot of the bosses you have to avoid attacks. Like how you would avoid attacks in Dark Souls by dodging and things like this, and so the game feels very dynamic and very responsive because on top of having amazing classes, like there's 9 classes, and they're really unlike anything you'd see in other MMOs. Each class has access to different weapons, and each weapon is very, very unique. So what that means is you have each class basically plays like a different game. I mainly play a guardian, which is like basically all around great character. It does a lot of damage, but also a lot of healing. And I play a thief, which I usually don't do. And these are like the most basic classes that you can find in Guild Wars 2. But there's like the mesmer that can create copies of itself to fool players, like real players or like mobs you're playing against. You have the necromancer, which can raise the dead and have minions. You have the ranger that has a pet and is like an earthy kind of character. You have so many different classes, and it's very fun to discover to just create a new character and play around with the class, because you're like, this plays so much different than my other characters, and the combat is responsive. And I'm not gonna repeat myself. Basically, I'm gonna have links in the description. Go play Guild Wars 2. I'm gonna try to do a video on Guild Wars 2 at some point on my main channel, because I really love it and there's a lot of things I can say about it. But yeah, anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you later.